gagged. He is convicted on 16 counts of contempt and sentenced to 4 years in prison. While in jail, he would be charged again for killing a cop in years past. A trial that would end in 1971 with a hung jury. In March 1970, Bobby Seale publishes Seize the Time while still being held in prison. The story of the Panthers and Huey Newton. On April 2nd, 1970, in New York, 21 Panthers are charged with plotting to assassinate police officers and blow up buildings. On May 22nd, 8 members, including Erica Huggins, are arrested on a variety of conspiracy and murder charges in New Haven, Connecticut. Meanwhile, Chief of Staff David Hilliard is on trial for threatening President Richard Nixon. The party does little to separate its legal and illegal aspects, and is thus always and everywhere under attack by the government. In 1971, the Panthers' newspaper circulation reaches 250,000. On Huey Newton's release from prison, he devotes more effort to further develop the Panthers' socialist survival programs in black communities. Programs that provided free breakfasts for children, established free medical clinics, helped the homeless find housing, and gave away free clothing and food. FBI forgery, provocation, and chemical war. In March 1970, the FBI begins to sow seeds of factionalism in the Black Panthers, in part by forging letters to members. Eldridge Cleaver is one of their main targets, living in exile in Algiers. They gradually convince him, with a steady stream of misinformation, that the Black Panther Party leadership is trying to remove him from power. Cleaver received stacks of forged FBI letters from supposed party members criticizing Newton's leadership and asking for Cleaver to take control. An example of such a forged letter, written using the name of Connie Matthews, Newton's personal secretary. I know you have not been told what has been happening recently. Things around headquarters are dreadfully disorganized, with the comrade commander not making proper decisions. The newspaper is in shambles. No one knows who is in charge. The Foreign Department gets no support. Brothers and sisters are accused of all sorts of things. I am disturbed because I myself do not know which way to turn. If only you were here to inject some strength into the movement, or to give some advice. One of the 2 steps must be taken soon, and both are drastic. We must either get rid of the Supreme Commander, or get rid of the disloyal members. Huey is really all we have right now, and we can't let him down, regardless of how poorly he is acting, unless you feel otherwise. Cleaver receives similarly forged letters across the spectrum, from groups outside the Panthers to Panthers themselves, from rank-and-file members to Elbert Big Man Howard, editor of the Black Panther. The split comes when Newton goes on to a TV talk show for an interview, while Cleaver is on the phone in Algiers. Cleaver expresses his absolute disdain for what has happened to the party, demands that David Hilliard be removed, and even attacks the breakfast program as reformist. Cleaver is expelled from the Central Committee and starts up his own Black Liberation Army. In 1973, Seale runs for mayor of Oakland. Though he receives 40% of the vote, he is defeated. The destroyed remnants of the party leadership. With such great struggles, seeing the party being ripped apart by factions and internal hatred, Huey, like many members, becomes disillusioned. He no longer wants to lead the party, though so many expect and demand otherwise, while he spins into a spiral of self-doubt. He becomes heavily dependent on cocaine, heroin, and other drugs. It is not clear that this was his own doing, and very probable the work of the FBI. Huey remarked in one of his public speeches in the 1980s, where he would often have brilliant clarity but then become entirely incoherent and rambling, that he was killing himself by reactionary suicide through the vices of drug addiction. On August 2nd, 1989, Newton is shot dead on the streets of Oakland in a drug dispute. Bobby Seale resigns from the party, while Elaine Brown takes the lead in continuing the Panther community programs. In the fall of 1975, Eldridge and Kathleen Cleaver returned from exile as born-again Christians. In 1979, all charges against Cleaver are dropped after he bargains with the state and pleads guilty to assault in a 1968 shootout with the cops. He is put on 5 years probation. In the dimming years of his life, Cleaver assimilates a political outlook similar to Martin Luther King, engages in various business ventures, and becomes heavily addicted to cocaine. By the beginning of the 1980s, attacks on the party and internal degradation and divisions caused the party to fall apart. The leadership of the party has been absolutely smashed. Its rank and file constantly terrorized by the police. Many remaining Panthers were hunted down and killed in the following years, imprisoned on trumped-up charges, or forced to flee the United States. As Cleaver would later explain in an interview a year before his death, as it was, the U.S. government chopped off the head of the Black Liberation Movement and left the body there armed. That's why all these young bloods are out there now. They've got the rhetoric, but are without the political direction, and they've got the guns. Black Child's Pledge. I pledge allegiance to my black people. I pledge to develop my body and mind to the greatest extent possible. I will learn all that I can in order to give my best to my people in their struggle for liberation. I will keep myself physically fit, building a strong body free from drugs and other substances which weaken me and make me less capable of protecting myself, my family, and my black brothers and sisters. I will unselfishly share my knowledge and understanding with them in order to bring about change more quickly. I will discipline myself to direct my energies thoughtfully and constructively, rather than wasting them in idle hatred. I will train myself never to hurt or allow others to harm my black brothers and sisters, for I recognize that we need every black man, woman, and child to be physically, mentally, and psychologically strong. These principles I pledge to practice daily, and to teach them to others in order to unite my people. A Pledge from the Black Panther, October 26, 1968, by Shirley Williams. Further reading and links. A quote by Angela Davis in a PBS interview in 1998. We can't think narrowly about movements for black liberation, and we can't necessarily see this class division as simply a product or a certain strategy that black movements have developed for liberation. We have to look at, for example, the increasing globalization of capital, the whole system of transitional capitalism now which has an impact on black populations, that has, for example, eradicated large numbers of jobs that black people traditionally have been able to count upon, and created communities where the tax base is lost now as a result of corporations moving to the third world in order to discover cheap labor. This has been an audio recording of the Marxists Internet Archive, created in July of 2006 by Brian Bastian. The original text of this article was written and published on the archive in May of 2001.